Can you hear me? Yes, thank you. A very good morning to one and all present here. I am A. Varsha, and I'll be delivering my talk on how Switzerland became a global leader in FOSS. So, this is just what I'm going to be covering today. So first, when we think about Switzerland, what do you think of? Chocolate, the Alps, maybe the neutrality of the country, how it doesn't side with anyone in politics. So today I'm going to be telling you how that one element of that country made sure that it became a global leader in FOSS. Okay, so why did FOSS fit Switzerland? As I mentioned, it is geopolitically non-conformity of the country is one of the main reasons. Since it did not want to be logged into big proprietary vendors like Microsoft or Google or Amazon, it chose to develop its own resources to work on them themselves. They did not want to be logged into other vendors wherein they will have to be dependent on someone else. And of course, Switzerland also has a decentralized governance. So it has 26 cantons, and each of them handle it by themselves in different cantons. It allowed for them to be easily adopted into the scheme of the country. And also transparency is also very embedded in the Swiss democracy, and it echoes perfectly with the FOSS ideal, right? And if you can't audit the code, then how can you trust your code? So that's transparency. And of course, the academic excellence of big institutions like ETH Zurich and the Bern University has created a culture of openness, collaboration, and engineering there. And in a way, Switzerland was already aligned with FOSS way long before it adopted it officially. Uh, Also, Switzerland is a very small country. It only has like an area of 41,000 square kilometer. It's just a little larger than Kerala. So it is very easy. It was very easy for them to adapt it because of the size of the country. There were less people, and it was easy to adopt it because of that. Next, we will be looking at the history of FOSS in Switzerland. So I've divided it into 5 phases. So the phase one would be from 1980s to 1900s. In 1982, CH, which is Confedero Helvetica, it's a Latin phrase meaning Swiss Confederation. It was founded in 1982, and as a tech association, it started promoting interoperability and open standards. So, and then ETH Zurich and EPFL all adopted Unix-based systems, LaTeX, and free compilers. They thought Linux, Perl, and C++. So that cultivated the entire generation of the FOSS-capable engineers there. And then we have phase two. So a lot of cantons there, like Geneva and Lausanne, they experimented with open source alternatives like OpenOffice and Linux Desktop. The Swiss Federal Railways also adopted it, and also the Swiss Post. They began evaluating open source backend systems as well. The CH Open, they transitioned into a formal advocacy group for open source policy back then. And then in the same time period, the launch of opendata.ch by again the CH Open. They also launched the Swiss node of Open Knowledge Foundation. And that was advocating for open public data based on the open standards. Then we have the strategic shift and coordination. So a lot of concerns about the vendor lock-in, like that was when Microsoft and Google all started becoming big, right? So because of those concerns about being logged into those vendors who are purely based out of the United States, they decided to increase an investment in FOSS. So CH Open, they launched training, a lot of legal toolkits, and they were rallying for a federal alignment on FOSS. And then in 2018, the Digital Switzerland strategy introduced FOSS and interoperability as priorities for that. And then public agencies also started releasing their code, like their map system, and the establishment of those platforms like oleg.ch for shared government code increased the FOSS ecosystem there. That was one of the main reasons. Then in 2020, the Swiss COVID app became a turning point in this FOSS ecosystem there. So they are an open source privacy first app that was developed by people at ETH Zurich. So it is during COVID-19, this app was used to trace COVID-19 contact over there. It was purely voluntarily based, and it was based on a very decentralized approach. And then in 2020, the March of 2020, the MBAG federal law. So MBAG stands for Electronic Means for the Fulfillment of Government Tasks. So that law was finally passed in March after years of talking about it. And it is a law that mandates interoperability and reuse in government software. So this established a very mandatory requirement for the disclosure of the source code. And this ensured that all the people over there knew what exactly was happening and how the apps and all the other things were developing. So this legislative shift was brought in by figures like Mr. Dr. Matthias Sturmer, and he was the head of the Bern University there. So they were the ones who started all of this. Then we have the public money, public code principle. That is a very default principle. There, it became a policy default and just not an ideal. And OSS Competence Center was also formalized, and that center was used to provide legal templates and developer guidance for all the people who are there and working on these softwares. Then lastly, from 2024 to now, they are also working on the launch of Alp Cloud. This is what I've heard so far, but then there isn't enough information about this, but there are in works of Alp Cloud. So that is a cloud developed by Switzerland. It's completely OSS, and they provide cloud infrastructure. So Open Justitia and Open Justitia is a software for the justice system in Switzerland, and then you have the Open Workbench and e-voting systems for the entire process. Then Switzerland, because of that, positioned itself as a model for privacy compliant and transparent digital governance. So now I just want to touch a little bit upon the public money, public code thing. So it was first introduced at the federal level, and then further on, it was also supported by the 26 cantons there in Switzerland. It also requires that the softwares developed using the public funds, that is the taxpayer funded money, must be open source by default, unless there is a strong legal reason not to, because of course there are some technicalities in all the time. And this again boosts a lot of reusability of the code and saves time and revenue. Then we have the Digital Switzerland strategy, which I again touched before. It was launched in 2018, and it is being updated regularly as well. So it promotes open data, open standards, and digital sovereignty. And then we have the Open Source Software Competence Center. So it provides legal models, code review, training, and technical support. It also helps cantonal and federal offices adopt, maintain, and release FOSS solutions for everything. So these aren't just token policies, though. They are legally binding frameworks that define how the public IT is supposed to function back in Switzerland. So it is also, as I mentioned, it is, if you look at it in a broader perspective, the reason it worked was because Switzerland is a small country. I said it before, I'll say it again. Just because it is small, it was very easy for everyone else to implement it. If you take a country such as India, it is a very vast country with different branches, central, state, and again, municipalities. Making everyone adopt that at the same time will be quite difficult to do so as well. Now, I'd like to draw some parallels to Kerala. So let's shift gears from the Alps and move to the backwaters. Uh, Again, they were also early adopters. They are one of the first governments in the world, along with Switzerland, to adopt FOSS in their government. So in 2001, Kerala officially made FOSS a part of its IT policy, especially for education and governance as well. So it was actually a very bold step because that was the time when computers were being starting to be used in Kerala, right? And suddenly telling them that, okay, Microsoft, the one that you use frequently, you can't use that, you have to only use Linux or something else, must have been a very bold switch there. But then they still did it, and they made sure that they adopted Linux systems and taught C++ there instead of other software languages or something. And then the education revolution, that's what happened. The IT at School project, right now I think it's called as KTE. They rolled out those Linux based systems that I was talking about. So it was done across around more than 15,000 schools, and they were trained on those source tools. And for governance and empowerment, they just didn't stop at schools. They also used it in e-governance and cooperatives as well, like Akshaya centers for citizen services and more. And the big idea is just that you need to reduce dependence on costly proprietary vendors, right? And just empower local vendors and keep the knowledge and, most importantly, money within the state. So, if you look at Switzerland again, what were the incentives driving them to adopt FOSS? They were already a wealthy country, right? So the main reason they would have done it is so that they can maintain that neutrality and not be dependent on anyone else. So if even if you are going to be dependent on those big companies like, as I said, Microsoft, they will be dependent on the United States, a different country. That was the main incentive there. But with Kerala, the main incentive was mostly money. They were not a wealthy state at first. So that is why they decided to implement FOSS. Both of them similar area, similar time, but then they had a different background, but they still adopted FOSS at the same time. And anyways, both of them have the same outcomes, right? They are both leaders in FOSS right now. So yeah, it was different journeys, same conclusion. It's just that open source is not just good technology, it is a good democracy. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Uh, are there any questions? I could try to answer them. Yes.
Did you find anything when researching Switzerland that you thought that you didn't know before that you thought that maybe can be implemented here in India?
Yes, As I mentioned, India is a very large country. When I was researching about this topic, I learned that because the government system is very distributed and we are not functioning collectively. So that is one of the reasons it is not working right now in India. But then a lot of it is still being implemented though, even with a few space policies and the Aadhaar something, they're still trying to implement it. It's just not happening on a large scale. Though hopefully it will in the future. Using,
When we in Kerala, you said about 2000 implementing the FOSS, right?
yes,
So when we the Kerala introduced the FOSS, they will publish like the Kerala is doing the FOSS on the education.
yes.
It may across all over the world.
Uh,
When
okay, I didn't understand your question actually.
when the Switzerland is doing the FOSS or the sovereignty
Yes,
of the government
yes.
and without dependency of US,
Mm.
we know about the US, right?
Okay.
The same.
Mhm.
When Kerala is doing the FOSS for education. Across
Yes.
the world, it will I think it's all over the world.
Yeah, actually, the news about Switzerland is also not all over the world. The reason I couldn't find a lot of information about the policies, there are more policies than what I cover that have been implemented there. But then, since they are a very close knit country, most of the information is still not available. Not a lot of people still know that Switzerland is the global leader in FOSS, but at least the people in the FOSS ecosystem, like community, know that. That's how it, and even people in the FOSS community know about Kerala, right? How it's increasing. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Both Switzerland and Kerala having their strong decentralized approaches. But what lessons from Switzerland could Kerala adapt to strengthen its force ecosystem? What lessons?
That is a question. That's a good question. Actually, it's more about India trying to learn from Switzerland to adapt. So, if the governments of, in my opinion, if the governments, all the governments present in India work collectively, then we can adapt it more into our ecosystem, our governments. That's one of the main things that need to be happening. But Kerala seems to be doing well enough on its own. So I don't think it needs to learn any lessons. That's my opinion, though. Yes.
Out of pure curiosity, so apart from the factors that you mentioned that influences the adaptation of force,
Mm.
right? In your research, did you find any correlation between the political orientation and the adaptation of force?
Yes. Because they wanted to be a neutral country, they adopted FOSS. As I mentioned before, they did not want to be logged into proprietary vendors. And most of these proprietary vendors are from the United States, like Microsoft, Google, and Amazon, I guess. So that is why they wanted to maintain their neutrality. And that's the reason for using FOSS, adopting FOSS.
You mean to say they want to be indigenous with their approach towards
They wanted to be independent, not depend on someone else. That's why.
Is it the same case for Kerala too?
No, Kerala was driven by a different incentive. Mostly it was about the wealth and the money. So this made it easier for Kerala. Even though both their incentives were different, they still had the same conclusion though.
Do you also then have any insights of this nation and the state are like giving back to the post community in terms of
Like,
funding or like
you mean Kerala?
Kerala and Switzerland?
I am not sure about Switzerland, but I think Kerala does. Kerala has the largest FOSS ecosystem in India, right? So I think that is a statement for itself.
Okay, so it's not like a government initiative.
It is a government initiative to teach in schools. So because they did that, all the new generation, the present generation who learned back in the 2000s, they are very skilled in FOSS platforms. So yeah. Did that answer your question? Thank you.
How the forced impact in the banking community, like banking sectors? Because
Uh,
after my knowledge, some of the proprietary TVs mostly used in the banking sector.
Yes, yes.
So how
I think I also mentioned that some of the code is not revealed to the public because banking is a very it needs high security, right? Even though the code is funded by the taxpayers' amount, that code mostly isn't shared because it means breaching security purposes. That alone is not happening in Switzerland right now in the Swiss bank. Anything else? Yes, sir.
As you said, it all started with the Free Software Foundation established in Sri Lanka 2012.
Yes.
Till today, do you have any record or data on how they replaced proprietary Dosso software from schools to many governments?
Like different governments, not just Kerala government. Only Kerala.
I have been part of the conference in 2001. So
Okay.
but after the conference, how things went, nobody is having the data. So
Yeah.
that can be replicated in other states.
Yes, that is true.
Do you have any data and research on that kind of thing, how things rank well in Kerala and not in other states?
Okay. I haven't looked into that one much actually. I need to though. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for letting me. Yeah. Yes.
Back to the days in 2000.
So they haven't actually shared that data to other governments. Right. Okay.
Source they have said,
Mm.
not the methodology with which they
Yes.
so
Yes.
that remained closed in compared to
Right.
so that needs to be
I don't have any details about that. As you mentioned, it is closed off. Maybe that's why. I'll try to find out if possible, though. Yes. Thank you for letting me know that. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Switzerland has this initiative of public money for public good.
Yes.
So India has also public funded projects like RUPI.
Yes.
Why isn't it open source?
There is something else happening with funding it in open source with the Aadhaar projects itself. It's recently started. Actually, I think there's a talk on it in here. Yeah. I think that will help. That talk will help you. Sorry. Thank you. Is there anything else? Anyone would like to ask? Okay, I think she should say.
The other thing you mentioned, I think it's a big factor that helped Switzerland is that they have this status of being neutral, right?
Yes.
So, but in a way, India under geopolitics is also relevant, not that maybe not to the extent that Switzerland is,
Right.
but it is quite a neutral for such a big player.
It is.
It's quite a neutral player, right? It
Yes.
tries to maintain friendly relationships with
Everyone
all the
else.
powers,
Yes.
and it doesn't really choose side when it comes to like
Yes.
US, China, or big.
Yes.
At least not to a large extent.
Yeah, true.
Do you have any thoughts on, like, I really think India actually would maybe start marketing that, like India could maybe be a place to kind of market that, that neutrality more as a way of being kind of a free haven for technology at large. Do you have any thoughts, like anything that
It would be very nice actually. But then, even though Switzerland is a neutral country, it's not still a part of the European Union. It just uses the euros with like a few treaties and the free export of goods. They have treaties for that, but it's not officially part of the EU. But India is still part of, I think, BRICS. So I think that might hinder some way into it being, more, the FOSS ecosystem being more fully adopted here. But in the future, that could definitely happen because they've already taken steps for it, right? So, yeah, in the future, hopefully very soon. Right. Yes. Thank you. I can end the session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.